So when we did on Shabbos, for those on Sunday, for those when we did Yiska, we did some prayers for Yom HaShoah, for those who died in the Holocaust and so on. It's also my uncle's Yortzeit, Dov Ben Mordechai. So my uncle used to come visit me a lot in Miami. He used to love coming to Miami, and so on and so forth. But he was nifter quite suddenly, actually. So we can do the shir in Le'ilu Nishmas him and Dov Ben Tzvi. Shama should have an leah. Okay, so we have a couple of halachas. Well, we've got to talk about halachas. We think Pesach is over. We think we're done with the chametz. Technically, not so. Why? Because, of course, we can eat chametz now. We can own chametz. We can buy chametz. There is still one restriction that's still very much in force, and that's a very strong rabbinic decree called chametz she'ava alav haPesach. When I say a very strong rabbinic decree, it's not to belittle some decrees yes, some decrees no. But what I mean is like kitnios. Everybody knows kitnios is from the Middle Ages, the medieval times, right? And they got confused with, so they made this gezerah. But this chametz she'alav haPesach goes back thousands of years. Gemara talks about it and so on and so forth. It was a very serious rabbinic decree, right? There's some very serious ones like muksa, right? We don't touch things on Shabbos and all these other things, washing your hands, natilas yadayim, before bread, which was made by Shlomo HaMelech, eruvin made by Shlomo HaMelech. So there's different, times that things came about in Jewish history. So this is a very serious one. It's there to protect the people from saying, I'll just keep my chametz, don't worry about it. So I'll transgress the Isra of owning chametz, boo-hoo. I won't eat it, but I'll own it. So I'll transgress the Isra of owning it, I don't care. But I'll sell it afterwards and make all my money. So the rabbi's like, no. You own it. You transgress the Isra, the prohibition of owning chametz, that's it. Nobody else is allowed to buy it. No Jews. Oh no, not even Jews. You can't even have any benefit from it at all. So you can't even sell it to non-Jews. So that is the Isra. Now, how does that manage itself nowadays? So, of course, we have to be careful with stores that sell you chametz that are owned by a Jew, and in the modern day, distributors. Because apparently how it works is that the distributor owns the food, and then he sells it on to the store. So if you have a Jewish distributor of chametz, and he's owning it on Pesach, then you also have a problem that this chametz is owned by Pesach. And the fact that it's then sold to non-Jewish stores afterwards is immaterial. So this is from the CLC, the National Association of Kashrus Organizations, ACO. They did all the research, and so on. Obviously, if you have small mom and pop shops in each locale, you have to be concerned. Again, I'm not sure. I haven't heard any specific ones in our area, but just to list them. These are stores that have no non-Jewish ownership, or publicly traded companies, or non-Jewish ownership, and is not known to use a Jewish distributor. So unequivocally acceptable to purchase chametz at these locations after Pesach. Just to name a few: Walmart, Wawa, Sam's Club, Safeway, Dwayne Reed, CVS, Costco, BJ's, Aldi's. All these stores, absolutely, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Walgreens. What's the one we have here called Publix? Yeah, Publix on the list, right? All of those are completely fine. Absolutely not a problem at all. Some of them that may use a Jewish distributor, but who sells their chametz, Target, specific locations. So yeah, Target is an issue. Because some Targets have Jewish distributors and you have to be careful. It says here, very interesting, it says there's no obligation to find out, right? If you know there is a Jewish store that didn't sell the chametz, then you can't buy it. But you don't have to go and say, ooh, maybe this was owned by, you don't have to go that far, number one. And number two, it says here that the average turnaround time in a store is 2 weeks. So 2-3 weeks after Pesach, we don't need to be worried because that's the new stock of food. But it does say online merchants such as Amazon, Sam's Club, Target.com, Walmart.com are not Jewish owned, but often serve as distributors for other businesses, some of whom are Jewish owned. The name of the supplier is sometimes posted on the website, and consumers should make a reasonable effort to determine if the supplier is Jewish before purchasing chametz after Pesach. Now, my wife, she purchases a lot of chametz on Amazon, funny bars and protein bars and all these things. So, because Amazon, you have exactly how it works, but you have independent people under the banner of Amazon to store their stuff at the various shipment places. You're about to say something, Gary?
Just that Amazon, they have these huge warehouses, and some merchandise is owned by Amazon,
right,
and some is owned by other
Right.
Other businesses who store their merchandise in the Amazon warehouses.
Right. So you have to do a little bit. What's the word that used here? Reasonable effort, right? If you know there could be an issue.
There was a store in the suburbs of Chicago.
Still is.
And it was, I don't wanna mention the name, but it was Jewish owned, it was a fruit store and other things in the store, and he was Jewish. And the people finally went to him and asked if he would sell his comments.
And he did?
Yeah.
Well, it actually took a number of years, the CRC worked.
They
out
Okay.
the years.
Okay. Also, you know, if you sell it, but then you carry on, if you sell your chametz, but then carry on doing business with it, it's according to Moshe could invalidate. There's a whole shaila. So there's a secondary sale that you sell all the profits to a non-Jew as well. It's kind of a bit like people who have businesses that are open on Shabbos. People who have nursing homes is one. The ice cream stores, gas stations, things that are open 24/7. So you have to sell your profit. You have to get a non-Jewish partner, right? Elliot, have you ever done anything like that in your mergers and leases business?
Non-Jewish partner.
Right, exactly. So it's a very common thing, and it's well structured. I remember one rabbi saying,
1/7 interest, and his interest is the shops.
right, so something you've done as a lawyer and so on.
How about we open on Shabbos?
Right, exactly, yeah. So you've done many of that. I remember I was once sitting with a rabbi. Somebody phoned him Friday morning. He says, I've just taken over a nursing home. What do I do for Shabbos? He goes, you should have thought about that before you took something over on a Friday. So we haven't got time to sort it out now. He said, you should have sorted this out before. You don't come to me on a Friday. I remember. He was like, why are you coming to me now on a Friday? We were rushing. They did something temporary. He was like, you don't come to me a few hours before Shabbos. I've just bought it. You've been thinking about this for weeks, months, whatever. Don't come now the last minute. Anyway, okay, so that is the Chomesh of Alav Pesach. Again, I'm not aware of any specific stores in our area that have been issues with, but that's just want to point out. The second thing we want to talk about is the Omer, right? So there's two parts of the Omer. There's the counting, the Sfiras Omer, which is a mitzvah in the Torah that you count every day. According to most people, it's rabbinic nowadays because we can't bring the sacrifices. Although, I was thinking to myself, how do we know it's going to be rabbinic? I have to look into this. If Moshiach comes now, and we have the Beis HaMikdash, and we can bring the carbon later, does that mean it turns it into a biblical mitzvah? I'm not sure. Or maybe because we missed the first carbon on Pesach. I have to look into that. That's just something I just thought of off the top of my head. Okay, so we'll have to see. So we should be counting every night. The basic premise is after nightfall or after sunset, one should count with a bracha and say the name of the night and the weeks. Now, if you miss out a night, if you forget at night, you can count during the day, but without a bracha, because the main time is at night. If you miss a complete 24-hour cycle, you miss the whole day, then you can't continue counting with the bracha anymore. The reason for that, to be very brief, is there is, just like with everything, a difference of opinion. Is the Omer 49 separate mitzvos? Each night is a separate mitzvah. So if you miss a night, you miss that mitzvah. But then you can still do the mitzvah tomorrow night. Or is it one mitzvah with 49 parts to it? So if I miss a part, because I forgot a day, I can no longer fulfill the whole mitzvah. So because we're not sure what the halacha should be, so we don't count with the bracha because we always are lenient on brachas. We don't make brachas that we have to, but we still carry on counting in case it's a separate mitzvah. At least you get the mitzvah of the counting. You don't do a bracha, but the mitzvah is the counting. So that's basically why we do that. Anybody going over the date line, very complicated what to do because you could miss a day, or sometimes if you go the other way, you could gain a whole day, whatever. So that becomes very complicated. Or people who become bar mitzvah in the middle, right? Yeah.
What do we want to talk about?
Right, yeah. That's not the topic for tonight. Next, there is a period of mourning attached to the Omer. Very dark, difficult time in the Jewish calendar. Famously, the Gemara talks about the students of Rabbi Akiva that were killed, the 24,000 students. Shalom Nagu Kovo Bazer. I've seen some fascinating shiurim about that. Was the Bar Kokhba Hadrianic persecutions, and that was a metaphor. The plague is a metaphor for just being wiped out by Hadrian. Anyway, that's also not the topic for tonight. Also, many other atrocities have happened throughout the ages during this dark period of time. So there are a few signs of mourning that we observe. One is we don't get married. Two is we don't shave. And three, the message just gone out now. Okay. And for the share. Okay. And 3 is we don't shave or take haircuts, although the Sfardim, their custom is that they do shave and have haircuts only on a Friday in honor of Shabbos. They won't shave all week, but they'll shave Shabbos. That's not the Ashkenazic custom. And according to a lot of people nowadays, we don't listen to music. There's a debate. Is that live music? Is it only music that causes you to dance? I have seen people say that, if you're depressed, definitely, even on Tisha B'Av, it says you can listen to music. So if you're driving in a car, you're doing it to keep you awake. If you're doing it because you need to relax, chill out, what's the word? Orchestral music, right? And that sort of stuff to relax and rewind. It's different, and so on. So, although nowadays there's all this a cappella stuff, it depends who you ask. Some people say a cappella stuff was also, what's the point? It's no good. You shouldn't be using that either. I do listen to a cappella stuff, right? We're very much musical beings, I think, nowadays, right? We're all into our music and fun and excitement, because otherwise, things can get very dark and difficult with all the difficult times that we live in. There are a number of ways to depict this morning. It's supposed to be like 33 days. So some people keep from the beginning of the Omer till Lag BaOmer, 33 days. Some people, like me, wait until Rosh Chodesh Iyar, which is next Monday, take a break for Lag BaOmer, cheat for a day, and then carry on till Rosh Chodesh Iyar. The main reason I do that, 2 reasons. Number 1, if I have a choice to wait till after Nisan, I'll wait till after Nisan, so I still enjoy the holy month of Nisan. Not that it's a problem, because the halacha is that you should do the first part, you do the first part. But I'm saying, if I have a choice, number 1, wait till after Nisan. But B, and perhaps the most important reason, is because my beard does not get so long. Think about it. If you keep the first part, your beard, 33 days, and this year's 35 days, because you had to stop 2 days before Pesach because it was Shabbos, right? That means you get 35 days of no shaving, correct? Right. If you keep the second part of the Omer, you only get a maximum of 18 days of no shaving, because you go from the Rosh Chodesh to Lag BaOmer, you shave on Lag BaOmer, then you start again, which is only another 15 days. So you only get 18 days of beard length and stuff like that. So from a practical reason, and I tell people, right, you have people who are saying, I can't, I need to shave because I have meetings, this, that, the other, all this sort of stuff. And there are leniencies for people, this, that, the other. Although, as I said to somebody a few weeks ago, I said, look, nowadays we're living in a world where I can say I'm whoever I am, whatever I am. I can come dressed to official meetings dressed however I am, right? We know how it is, right? Do we get away with anything today? Don't you dare tell me anything. It's my right. So you're telling me you come with a bit of a scraggly beard, it's a problem? Anyway, but a lot of it, I think also people, they feel nervous, I feel, in my mind, if I'm sitting there with a beard, they look, okay. But so I say to people, if you're worried, you're a businessman, you're doing things, so keep the second part of the Yoma, so it never gets that big in the first place, You're not worried about day 23 and 25 with all your, So that's a little bit of the laws of the Omer. Right, let's get into the Parsha. So I've got to remind myself, because we're trying to make it a little lighter, because people were saying they wanted it a little bit lighter than some of the deeper stuff we were getting into. Sorry, Elliot, I know you like a book challenge. So we'll try and... it's always difficult getting the balance right. Oh, it is, between. So we said we'd try and explain things a bit more. So, Parsha Shmini. Okay, what is the basic outline of the Parsha? So Shmini means 8, because it refers to the 8th day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, tabernacle in the desert, which was on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And that day, Hashem told Moshe, who had been the Kohen Gadol for 7 days, it's now time to pass over the baton to Aron. There was a whole load of sacrifices to be done on behalf of Aron. We'll discuss that in a minute. On behalf of the Jews, we'll discuss that in a minute. Then tragedy struck, because the children of Aron brought frankincense into the Beis HaMikdash and they were killed. That was forbidden, so they got killed, which was a huge tragedy in the middle. And Aron was told, you better carry on, right? Can you imagine how tough that must have been? Business as usual in the temple, and everyone else will mourn, but you carry on. Then we get told the mitzvah prohibition of not drinking wine whilst or just before you work in the temple. And then we have kosher food. Finally, we can eat. We get the kosher laws of which animals are kosher, not kosher, birds, fish. And then we finish off with the laws of Tumah and Tahara, spiritual impurity, which is not really something we're so familiar with nowadays, because we don't have the ability to transgress the prohibitions, right? Because becoming Tomei is not you're allowed to become Tomei, but you can't do certain things when you're Tomei. You can't eat Truma, you can't bring a carb, you can't go into the Beis HaMikdash, right? Now we don't have any of those things. So being Tomei, and we don't have the ability with the Parah Aduma to completely heal ourselves from Tumah. So we'll speak a little bit we'll speak a little bit about that as well, and something. So the first few things I want to talk about are the sacrifices at the beginning of the Parsha, because Rabbeinu Bachye, the 12th century, 13th century, I think, Spanish scholar, notices a difference between Aron had to bring certain sacrifices and all the Jews had to bring certain sacrifices. So Aron was told he has to bring an egel, a calf. Now, obviously, the reason why he was bringing an egel, a calf, is because these are to atone for the sin of the egel, the golden calf that they made several weeks ago. When they made a calf, Aaron did the actions, built it, and then the Jews danced around. We discussed that what was the real sin involved, right? They were trying to make an intermediary, go between them and God, because they couldn't fathom the idea of serving something invisible, so they had to create a physical man. Right, we discussed this at length, right? If you remember. Right. So Aaron was told that he should bring this egel. Se'er izim, the Aaron brings an egel, he brings a calf, lechatos, for a sin offering, va'ayil le'ola, and a ram for an ola offering. Whereas the Bnei Yisrael is the opposite way around. They take seirizim, a goat for the chatos, and the egel is for the ola. So why does Aaron have to bring the egel for a chatos, a sin offering? The Jews bring a sheep for a sin offering. And why does the Jewish people bring the egel for an elevation offering that's completely burnt? And Aaron brings a ram for the ola. Why are they switched around? Why do we have a switcheroo between Aharon and the Jewish people? So Rabbeinu Bechaya says a fascinating thing. He says, we know, as the Gemara says, why do you bring a chatos? Why do you bring a sin offering? Because you have done an action. You have committed one of the 36 sins with an action that require you to bring a korban chatos. You've done an action. You've committed a sin with an action. Why does somebody bring an ola elevation offering? Two ideas. One, you can donate it. I can say, you know what? I'm going to bring an ola offering. I'm going to give something to Hashem. But also, if you sin by thoughts, right? If I fantasize about sins I want to commit, or I plan negatively, put in place negative schemes and plans, but they don't come to fruition, either because I stop myself or somebody else stops me or whatever, but I've had those negative plans and thoughts, then one really should bring a korban ola, an elevation offering that gets completely burnt, and nothing is eaten. It's all elevated, just like the thoughts and your spiritual ideas are all elevated. So says Rabbeinu Bechaya, who did the action of the egel? Who did the action of making the egel? That was Aharon, right? He took the gold, vayasehu egel mechasecha. He made it. He had pure intentions, as we discussed. He was trying to delay them, all this sort of stuff. He had pure intentions, but his actions were bad. He did a bad action of making a avodah zarah. So therefore, his egel that he had to atone for was for an action. So he brings his egel, his calf, the chatos, for a sin offering. The Jewish people didn't make the egel, right? They thought about it. It was like, yay, woohoo, right? We got this egel, now let's go serve it. So their sin of the egel was in their minds, in their thoughts. Aha. So now that their sin was in their thoughts, they bring the egel, the calf, for an ola, because that atones for the sins of thoughts. And Aaron, who did a physical action, he brings an atonement for his actual actions, and that's why there is a difference. Okay, and a little bit further on, Aaron is standing back. Moshe was serving for 7 days, right? He did the 7 days, everything. He was a one-stop man for 7 days. All of a sudden, he has to hand over the baton to Aaron. Now, Aaron, you're going to take over. You're going to be the Kohen Gadol. You're going to do everything. What does the pasuk say? Vayomer Moshe el Aaron. Moshe says to Aaron, this is chapter 9, verse 7, Karav el HaMizbeach, draw near to the Mizbeach, V'aseh eschatoscha v'solesecha, do your work that you have to do on behalf of yourself and the Jewish people. What's this expression, draw near? Karav, come close. Korev, right? Near, come close. So Rashi says, because Shahaya Aaron Bosh, Aaron was embarrassed. V'yorei logeshes, and he was afraid to approach. Amalo Moshe, lama ata bosh, why are you embarrassed? Lekach nivcharto, that's why you were chosen. You were chosen for this. Don't be so humble. Don't be so embarrassed. Come, this is why you were chosen. So the Chasam Sofer says something here very, very, very amazing. Maybe only somebody on the Chasam Sofer could say that from the Freshburg and 1800s, right? Great halachic writer and thinker. He was an Ashkenazi Litvischer fellow, but very much also with a Hasidic twist and a twang into his thoughts. He says like this: just to remind ourselves very briefly, okay, very briefly, going back, we said that Aron, how could he not give up his life? You can't serve idols. You can't serve Avodah Zarah. You have to, it's one of the 3 cardinal sins. So how could Aron, with all his best of intentions, how could he not have given up his life and said, no, you have to kill me, I'm not doing this? So again, to be brief, he says like this: Aron, and the Gemara says, Aron saw that Chor, his nephew, was killed. And he knew that if they kill him, they would have killed the Kohen Gadol, Aron, and the Navi, a prophet. And there was a pasuk in Eicha, Im Yahare Kohen v'Navi, it's no coming back. If you kill the Kohen Gadol and the Navi at the same time, of that there is no ever coming back. There is no forgiveness. There is no, there's no returning, nothing. So Aaron said to himself, I am prepared to give up my Olam Haba, my next world, because I'm about to do one of the 3 cardinal sins. I'm refusing to give up my life. I'm going to do it. I'm going to transgress one of the cardinal sins, which means I am completely giving up myself. This is who Aaron was, right? He was always working on behalf of everybody, trying to make peace. I am prepared to give up my soul, quite literally, for eternal damnation, although that may be a different religion that uses those expressions, that whatever. But anyway, I'm giving up my soul. I'm completely excommunicating myself by committing this sin. Why? Because if I commit this sin, the Jewish people won't kill me, and then at least I'll have an ability to do teshuvah. I won't. That's my problem. But the Jewish people themselves will have a possibility of returning, which was they did. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to get kapara, atonement for them. But if they killed the Kohen, that's me, and they killed Chor, the prophet, at the same time on Mount Sinai, then there's no coming back, because there's a puzzle. If you kill the Kohen and the Navi, that's it. God, that's why Hashem destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, kicked them out of, they killed the blood of Zechariah, whatever, right? That's the puzzle in Eicha. So he knew that if they kill him, that's it. Game over for Klal Yisrael. So what did he do essentially? He was prepared to go down with the ship. He was prepared to sacrifice himself, completely sacrifice himself, not just in this world, but in the next world, which is a real sacrifice, right? If a person sacrifices their life here, then at least they still get the next world, the Olam Haba, whatever is coming afterwards, and all the eternal benefits, right? So you still get that. So you have a little bit of loss here, but you still have everything in the next world. Whereas Aaron was prepared to have a bit more Olam Hazeh, because he didn't give up his life, so he would have lived a bit longer. But he was giving up eternity. He was giving up everything. Why? On behalf of the Jewish people, because he loved the Jewish people so much, as we know. Aaron was Ohev Shalom, Varodev Shalom. He pursued peace. That's who he was, right? He was a man who pursued peace, wanted peace, cared for peace, and so on. And therefore, Hashem said, okay. Because again, another question is, how can Aaron a Kohen, with his best of intentions, how can he now be the Kohen God? Isn't he tainted? Isn't he damaged goods? Right? Because at the end of the day, he served in the Egel. Okay, now we know. What color clothes did the Kohen Gadol wear when he went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur? He wore white. What was he normally wearing? Gold. Why didn't he wear gold on Yom Kippur? Because, well, also because gold could also be pure, but because you don't want to remind Hashem in the Holy of Holies, the golden calf. We have to be so sensitive. Wait a minute, says the Chasam Sofer. You're telling me all these Kohanim and future generations have to wear different clothes as not to remind God of the golden calf, yet Aron, the man who perpetrated the act, is walking in as if he owns the place, and you're telling me that's not a problem, right? He's tainted goods. How could he then be somebody that you, Hashem, not us, right? How Hashem is doing it, right? How can Hashem now turn around and say, you're the guy, you're the one that I want, don't worry about it. So Aaron was embarrassed about it. How can I be the one I serve the Egel? How can I be the one that can now come and do all this stuff in God's palace? I feel I can't do it. I'm tainted, I'm damaged goods, and so on. So he recoiled, he went back. And Moshe turned to him and says, why are you embarrassed? Lekach nivcharto. That's why you were chosen. Because Hashem says, actually, you know who I want? You know who I want to advocate on behalf of the Jewish people. You know who I want to be my servant in the Beis HaMikdash to try and achieve outcomes for the Jewish people every year. Yom Kippur, you're trying to achieve atonement with the korbanos, the sacrifices. Every day, you're trying to achieve atonement with all this sort of stuff. Who is the one I want to advocate? Who is the one that I want going on my OU mission to Washington next week? Or 2 weeks? Who is the one I want to advocate? Nobody better than the one guy that was prepared to completely give up everything on behalf of the Jewish people. That's exactly who I want, because you were prepared to give up eternity for me or for the Jewish people. Lekach nivcharto. That's why you were chosen. You were chosen exactly because you chose to commit an act that could save the Jewish people in the long run, rather than save yourself and have eternity yourself in the next worlds, where the Jewish people will be wiped out. So that's why Aaron was chosen, because he was prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. Yes, people who give up their lives is an amazing sacrifice, and it's, we talk about Yom HaShoah today, tonight. We talk about the people who made the ultimate sacrifice, of course, but there's one greater sacrifice than that, and that's the sacrifice of eternity, and that's what Aron HaKohen was prepared to do. And he didn't know Hashem was going to say, well, actually, you know what? I'll let you off this time. I'll give you back eternity. He didn't know Hashem was going to say that, right? Like Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who threw themselves into the fiery furnace. Abraham, he also went into Nimrod's fire. He didn't know God was going to make a miracle. We always believed there could be miracles. We always believed that God could do it if he so chooses, as he did. But they didn't know Hashem would do it. They didn't think, oh yeah, I'm going to do it, and God will make me survive. No, how do you know? Maybe he won't, but they were still prepared to do it. And that's why Aron HaKohen was chosen. And that's this idea of he had to be drawn near. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, this is the exact reason why I am choosing you. Next bit I want to talk about, and I probably will talk about this on the sermon on Shabbos. I say that because, many things happen during the week, and you think of different things, and I change my sermon 5 times, sometimes a week. But there is a Parsha. This is chapter 10, verse 8. So the children of Aron have died. I wrote about it in my newsletter. I cheated, because this is the same thing I put in every year. I wrote an article for the Young Israel magazine that they used to have about why Nadav and Avihu had died. So I basically recycle that every year because it's fascinating. So you may recognize that if you read my writings in previous years, you may, I changed a few words here and there just to make it look different. But the theme is the same. So I wrote about that, so you can read about that in the newsletter this week. Elliot, if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get that. Then we have this little, seemingly insignificant Parsha, which is in between the people dying and the continuation of the story of the opening of the Beis HaMikdash. Yayin v'sheicha al teish atov anecho itach. You cannot drink wine, you, your children, any future kohanim. B'voyachem en oil moed v'lo samusu. When you come in to serve, and you won't die. The inference being, if you do drink wine and come in, you will die, which is a chiyuv misa, which means that drinking wine and walking into the Beis HaMikdash and serving the avoda, doing the avoda, is a capital offense that you get punished with death. Olahavdil ben kodesh lechol ben atome ben ator. Right. Olahoros says bnei Yisrael, to teach the bnei Yisrael eis kol hachukim asher divrei Hashem aleim biyad Moshe, which the rabbis tell us what's this idea. Olahoros says bnei Yisrael. So the Gemara learns out that just like you can't drink wine when you come into the Beis HaMikdash to do the avoda lahoros. Also, if you're passing a shaila, you can't drink wine. So once you've had your wine on Purim and all these other things, you can't paskin shailas anymore because your mind is not there. How much do you need to transgress this prohibition? A revius of wine, right? We all had a revius on Pesach. The cups, not that big, 5 ounces, right? Some people say it's 3 ounces, 3.2 ounces, not a lot of wine. Okay? So you have that amount of wine, and you walk into the Beis HaMikdash, and you try and do the avoda, kapot, you're done for. So the question is why? Yes, so the Rambam and others say, of course, it's unbefitting, it's unbecoming for a place of great holiness for you to come in a lurid state of mind when you're drunk. That's completely disrespectful. How could you do that? You come to my house, you come to serve me, and you're drunk and you don't know what's going on. So we can understand conceptually, right? That makes a lot of sense, right? But if you think about it, a revius of wine is not a lot, right? It doesn't say if you come in and you're drunk, you're out of your mind. No. Just a revius of wine. Just one of the cups of Pesach wine, right? And Baruch Hashem, we had a Seder here. Nobody got drunk even after the 4 cups, right? They weren't drunk, and we still carried on with the Seder. So why such a small amount? What's a deeper lesson here? And this goes to, this is why I may speak about it on Shabbos, this goes to the whole point of serve Hashem with joy, which we have here everywhere. Serve Hashem with joy. That's something I big believe in, right? We talk about it. Try and have joy in the davening itself. Provide the joy. And that's the lesson I saw here. And it speaks to me a lot. That if you need wine, if you really think that the only way you can come into the Beis HaMikdash, the only way you can gain the spirituality is you've had a little bit of wine to take the edge off, there's something wrong with you. If you cannot come to the Beis HaMikdash without any wine and be happy and take inspiration, there's something wrong with you. There's no hope for you anymore. There's something lacking within you, and that's it. If you feel, right? We had here a Suda Shel Moshiach, right? Rabbi Matisov turned to me and said, have a little bit of wine, take the edge off and you get to sing, right? So we know, a little bit of wine takes the edge off, you lose your inhibitions and you're dancing and you're singing, right? If you need that to perk you up before you walk into the holiest place on earth, there's something wrong with you. Because coming into the Beis HaMikdash itself, being there to serve God and to do the Kohen's work, should be inspiration enough. You shouldn't need any other external stimuli, or whatever word you want to use, to get you going. You shouldn't need even just a revius of wine. You know what? Let me take the edge off. Let me feel. No good moods, no nothing. If it's not doing it for you, there's something wrong with you. And that's a lesson I take here, and I say to people, a lot of shuls, and this is not disparaging to anybody, okay? Please don't take it that way. A lot of people try and say, well, we'll make the service shorter, we'll bring in this and that, and we'll try and... But to me, it's the service itself. It's the davening. That through the davening, through the singing of the davening and connecting to the davening, those who were here, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, you were here, right? We had a song sheet. We tried to take what the davening means, not changing it, not trying to do things differently. No. Take the davening and still immerse ourselves into what we are saying. Starts off by trying to understand what we're saying, why we are saying it, why Musaf and Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah is the way it is, right? Why are we standing there for 5 hours? And we talked a lot about it, and we went through it. Because it's the davening itself, the coming to shul itself should be, and I know it's not always the case, okay? So I know that, believe you me. But that should be enough of an inspiration that you don't need a kiddush after davening to attract you to come. You don't need a bagel and a shmir to come to a shir, right? The shir itself, I know. Yes, I know that's how it is in today. But that's the lesson from this Parsha of what's called shtuya yayin, of talking about drinking wine, even a minuscule amount, because you are showing that I cannot do it on my own. I cannot come to shul, I cannot come to the Beis HaMikdash and experience the joy, the connection to God. I just can't do it. There's something wrong with me. My heart, my body, my soul is disconnected. So much so that I need the wine. I need something to be able to feel that connection to Hashem. And that's why it's such a serious thing. We're showing to say that this is one of the most serious Averas in the Beis HaMikdash. Yes, we understand it's a complete and utter, you can walk in drunk, drunk and walking in, you can understand what a bezoyan to God, a slap in the face. Yeah, we get all of that from a deeper level, but even just a small amount of wine, nobody may be able to know that you've had any wine. You can mask it very well, 5 ounces of wine from Pesach, right? It's not too bad. But it's the internal lesson. that we need to take to heart for us here in 5785, that the Yiddishkeit itself, the davening, the mitzvos, we should try and find within that the inspiration that we need, the connection to God, right? People throughout life are always looking for happiness, and they're looking for something to feel loved and to feel needed and to feel something. But we have that. Right? Yes, we need to work at it and we need to refine it, but that's what Yiddishkeit can be for us, right? And different things in Yiddishkeit speak to different people, right? Different areas, different mitzvahs or whatever, speak to different people. But that's what the goal should be. The goal should be that the Torah itself, the davening itself, the coming to shul itself should be the reason what gives me my inspiration. And yes, the Kiddush, of course, there's a mitzvah to have Kiddush on Shabbos. So yes, we'll enjoy the Kiddush. We have a nice cholent and all this sort of stuff. But that shouldn't be the reason why we're coming. That shouldn't be what leads us to it. Oh yes, I'm going to have a nice cholent, but I'm going to come to shul because otherwise I look like a JFK, and I like Ram to LaGuardia instead of JFK. So, that's what really we should be. So that's the cause of the inspiration, and that's what the lesson I believe, or not what I believe, but that's what a lesson they bring out from this Parsha. And that's why, when is this Parsha? Right at the end. You've had the Beis HaMikdash, you had the children of Aron dying. We're just about to open now for business. Literally now we're open for business. The doors are open. And what's the last thing that we're warned about? No wine. Because all you people that are coming in, remember, it's the experience itself that should lead to the inspiration that you need. I want to finish off with something I saw that was, wow, fascinating. So we've talked a lot. We talk about Yom Ha'atzmaut, and we talk about Yom HaShoah today. And I've talked about many times how rabbis from the 12th, 13th century, the Ramban talks about that the non-Jewish people will give Israel back to Israel in Shir Hashirim, and that then there'll be a long time period, and then afterwards Moshiach will come. So that was 1948, right, when the leaders of the world, the United Nations, gave Israel back, and so on and so forth. So these things are things that we see happening now that were predicted, hundreds of years ago. Thousands of years ago with the prophecies, right? We see it all coming true, right? The pasuk says, "V'shav Hashem v'heishiv," twice in the same pasuk. So people say it's just an expression, but no, it means there's going to be two gatherings of the exiles, like we saw in 1948. That's clearly not the end game, right? Look at the troubles we're having now. But I saw something here. Listen to this. So, in the treif animals is the chazir, the pig. Right? Chazir literally translates as returning. Choser, it's going to return, it's going to change. And the Gemara says because it's going to change in the future to become kosher. Some people say it doesn't mean literally going to become kosher. Whatever. It's going to change, the Gemara says. Okay? So, the Rabbeinu Bechaye says like this. Yesh nuschos. There are other writings. Shekosav behem she'asid lahachse, the pig. Oh, and it goes in because it's trying to say that each of these animals that mentioned here that are specifically non-kosher because they have one of the, there's many animals not kosher, but they have no of the two. They don't chew the cud or have split hooves. These that are mentioned here have one of them. So that's why I thought, they have one. Maybe they should be kosher. They have one. No, I get it. But one, maybe they'll be half kosher. No. Right? People who say, you're half Jewish because your father's Jewish. No such thing, right? Like these simonim. Either you have two or none. So these four represent different animals of the Golos, the exiles that have subjugated the Jews. And the last one, the Chazir, refers to Rome. That Rome is the pig and the Chazir. Why? That they are going to return, to return God's crown to its original place and the Jewish crown to the original place. Listen to this. For Inyan, ki Mikdashim nivnu al yidei Yisrael. The first two temples were built by Jews. Shlomo Melech, second Beis HaMikdash, Cyrus let the Jews build it. Right, they built it. Maybe not literally every brick was built by Jews. Maybe there were non-Jewish helpers in the second Beis HaMikdash. There was the first Beis HaMikdash said also one of the people in Tanakh may not have been Jewish, but it was Jewish themed, right? By its Rishon Bana Shlomo, Mizera Yehuda, the first Beis HaMikdash was written by Shlomo from the Jewish dynasty. By Sheni Bana Zerubbabel, right, from Chanukah fame, Kate Bavel, Zerubbabel, right, yeah, that's him. He built the second Beis HaMikdash, right, very underplayed figure. Actually, he's one of the unknown. If you tell him, who's Zerubbabel? I don't know, who's Zerubbabel? We mentioned him on Chanukah, right, but he was just like Shlomo Melech, built the second Beis HaMikdash, great rabbi. V'nasari de koresh and nosan rishus. However, avol abayis ashlishi, the third Beis Hamikdash, asida umazu livnoisa. The Romans will build it. V'zehu she'amru asi lahachsehu ator liyoshna lefi shehu hechriva. Because the Romans destroyed it, they will be the ones that build it. Now, you think about that in light of 1948. We spoke about the Ramban says specifically Israel will be given back as a land, which is literally what happened. Not that the Beis Hamikdash will be built through them.
Their conference was in Sanremo, which is in Italy.
Ah, interesting. But you think about also now with America and Trump and how the power that has, you think about future things. So you just remember these things have been, written and predicted. I just saw, of course, we don't care about what other religions have and so on and so forth, but it's no coincidence, right? We know that the three major religions all have Yerushalayim as one of the holy points, right? It's not a coincidence, right? Because they feel some sort of Kedusha there. All the religions have some sort of idea of a Mashiach, right? We have a Mashiach, they have a Mashiach, right? So it shows you that these ideas, not that we would not think they're real ideas, but it gives, you know what I'm saying? If everybody thinks it, there's obviously something that's pulling them towards this idea of a Mashiach, right? Each has their own little variation. But I saw something fascinating yesterday, that there is some sort of Christian, Roman prophecy that they worked out to be the year 2027 is the year when they believe them, Mashiach and stuff. So, it's all culminating, right? You see all these things that are, with the Pope dying, and it was the last Pope, whatever. So, you see these things that have been written hundreds of years ago and put in, and we don't necessarily know exactly how each bit is playing out because we're living through it. But we talk about Yom Ha'atzmaut coming up next week, and Yom HaShoah, the terrible tragedies, and we put it in light that some of these things gives us hope and inspiration that these things have been written, we see them playing out, that we will wait hopefully no longer for the final, complete redemption, the coming of Mashiach, the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. How, who, what, and when, we'll wait and see, right? Those who have heard me talk about these things, I talk about my volcano ideas that fit into all the prophecies and stuff that I gave on my, when I came for my trial, which was this week, many years ago, but besides the point, and so on. As I say to everybody, I will be happy to be proved wrong. Because when I'm ultimately, comprehensively proved wrong, we will see exactly what did happen, and then nobody will care anymore, because we will have the Beis HaMikdash, and whether it happened this way, that way, nobody will care. So I'm happy to be proved wrong with all of these things, as is everybody here will be completely over the moon to be comprehensively proved wrong in Mitzvah Hashem. So on that note, I wish everybody a wonderful week, and we'll see you back for a share, probably in the daytime hours, in a couple of weeks. Also, something to think about, Shavuos is coming up, and we want to do something. We're not going to do all night learning, because, I don't think we have anybody that will...
I haven't done that in a year.
No, but what I would like to have is some sort of a meal, because going home and coming back is just not going to happen for people. Nobody's going to come for shul, walk home, and then come back later. So we'll do some sort of a meal here. It will be late, obviously, because, you wait for nightfall. We'll have some sort of a dairy meal, and then we'll learn for a couple of hours, whatever. So I think if everyone has any ideas or things or recommendations, I am all ears. Have a wonderful week. Okay, are we sure we want to stop streaming?